my dear students. I hope your studies are going well. Today I am starting chapter number 6, that is molecular basis of inheritance. One of the most important chapter for class 12 boards as well as for NEET. So listen carefully and note down the important points from this video. So let's start today's chapter. In the previous chapter, you have studied the basis of genetics and how characters are being passed from one generation to other generation. And in this chapter, we will discuss which molecule is responsible for inheritance of characters. So as the name of the chapter suggests, that is molecular basis of inheritance. Inheritance means the process by which genetic informations are being passed from parents to offsprings. We have already seen this particular definition in chapter number 5. That is, it is a process by which genetic informations are being passed from parents to offsprings. So in this chapter, we will discuss the molecule. Which molecule is responsible for inheritance of characters? So let's start. Before moving on to the chapter, you should know the central dogma of biology. The central dogma given by Crick. What does it say? It says that from DNA, RNA can be synthesized by a process known as transcription. From RNA, proteins can be formed by a process known as translation. And from DNA can be synthesized. That process is known as replication. All this process we will be studying in this particular chapter. So you can easily see the topics which are going to be covered in this particular chapter. First is the structure of DNA, where we will discuss the double helical structure of DNA. Then the search for genetic material, RNA world, where I'll be teaching you the structure of RNA and different types of RNA. Then replication, transcription, translation, genetic code, regulation of gene expression, human genome project, and DNA fingerprinting. Isn't it a very interesting chapter? It is. Please listen carefully. First of all, a very basic question. What is DNA? What is DNA? DNA acts as a genetic material in most of the organisms. We all know that DNA is the genetic material. Why I have written most of the organisms and not I have written like in all organisms or in every organisms? Why not? Because in some viruses, RNA acts as the genetic material. Instead of DNA, RNA acts as the genetic material in some viruses like the retroviruses. Okay, and in some viruses have both DNA as well as RNA as its genetic material. In the coming classes, you will know that why DNA is the genetic material and not RNA. Why DNA is known as the genetic material? Why not RNA? Okay, we will study that in our coming classes. This is a very simple diagram showing that our human body consists of millions of cells. We all know that, and if we see a detailed structure of a cell, we can see in its central portion it consists of nucleus, and this nucleus it consists of chromosomes. This chromosomes consists of a coiled structure known as DNA. Okay, and we can see that DNA consists of many nitrogenous bases in it. Now we will see this structure of DNA in more detailed way. So after learning this particular chapter, some questions will be cleared to you people, like what is the role of RNA? Why DNA is the genetic material? How DNA control traits, and how protein synthesis is related to DNA. Some words are being missing here. Okay, so this all things will be cleared in your mind. Apart from this, many questions may arise in your mind as well. All questions will be cleared in this particular chapter. So listen carefully. Okay, before starting the structure of DNA, we should know that there are two types of nucleic acid. One is DNA and RNA. You can easily see from this particular figure that RNA consists of only a single strand, whereas DNA consists of two strands. You can see two strands in DNA, and RNA only one strand. Now each DNA strand. As I have told you that DNA consists of two strands. Each strand of DNA consists of a sugar phosphate backbone, means a backbone which is made up of sugar and a phosphate and a nitrogenous bases. Okay, these bases, you can see colorful structures. Okay, these are the bases and the backbone is made up of sugar and phosphate. Let us see them one by one in more detailed way. So the first point which says that a DNA molecule consists of two polynucleotide chain. Note it down. A DNA consists of two polynucleotide chains. What do you mean by polynucleotide? Poly means many. Okay, so it has many nucleotides. Now what is nucleotide? A nucleotide consists of the following components like pentose sugar, phosphate group and nitrogenous bases. These are the three components of a nucleotide. You can easily see from this particular figure that this is one nucleotide, this is another nucleotide, this is another nucleotide, this is another nucleotide. So many nucleotides are joined together to form a polynucleotide chain. This is a polynucleotide chain, and now we will study polynucleotide chain in more detailed way. First, I have told you the nucleotide consists of pentose sugar. As we have already studied in our class 11 biomolecule chapter, that pentose sugar are your monosaccharides which consists of 5 carbon in it. Okay, it consists of 5 carbon in it. Let me write it down. It consists of 5 carbon. So 5 carbon compounds are known as pentose sugar. Now there are two types of pentose sugar. One is deoxyribose sugar and another is ribose sugar. Deoxyribose sugar is present in your DNA and ribose sugar is present in RNA. Let us see a beautiful diagram or a figure of deoxyribose and deoxyribose and ribose sugar. You can easily see from this particular diagram that they consist of how many carbon atoms? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5 carbon atoms in it, and it also consists of 5 carbon atoms. You can easily see in the second carbon atom of deoxyribose there is absence of O, whereas it consists of O. So OH and here only H. Because of this absence of oxygen atom, this particular sugar is known as deoxyribose. D means absent, absence of oxygen. So it is known as deoxyribose sugar. Please note down the structure in your copy. Because of the absence of this oxygen, DNA is more stable as compared to RNA. This is the first reason why DNA acts as a genetic material and not RNA. And it consists of phosphate group. Phosphates, we know that phosphates are being written as PO4 3 negative. They are written in this way. Okay, these are inorganic salts of phosphorus. Now let us see the third component, that is nitrogenous bases. Nitrogenous bases are of two types, that is purines and pyrimidines. Note it down in your copy, purines and pyrimidines. The what are purines? Purines are of two types, that is adenine and guanine, and pyrimidines are of three types, that is cytosine, thymine and uracil. Among these, cytosine and thymine is present in DNA. It is present in DNA. Okay, and uracil is present in RNA. Okay, this is the difference between DNA and RNA. DNA consists of nitrogenous bases like A, T, G, C, and RNA consists of nitrogenous bases like A, U, G, C. Let us see their structures. Okay, so this is a figure showing the structure of both nitrogenous bases, that is purines and pyrimidines. So you can see clearly from this particular figure that purines, they consist of two ring structure. They are two ringed structure. Okay, and pyrimidine, they are one ring structure. They consist of only one ring. Purines, they consist of 4 nitrogen atoms and 5 carbon atoms. You can easily see 4 nitrogen atoms, 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't count the nitrogen which is outside the ring. No need to count that. And carbon atom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 5 carbon and 4 nitrogen. And similarly in case of pyrimidines, there are 2 nitrogen and 4 carbon atoms. Okay, you can easily see from this particular figure. Okay, so Now you can easily distinguish between a purine and a pyrimidine. Purine, they consist of two ring structure, and pyrimidines, they consist of a single ring structure. These structures are important for you people. When you were in class 11, I have told you that no need to remember the structure of nitrogenous bases. But now, being a class 12 student, you have to remember the structures of the nitrogenous bases. Now, what we have studied, let us summarize it. That is a nucleotide structure. We have seen that a nucleotide consists of phosphate, sugar, and a base, nitrogenous base. Sugar are of two types, ribose and deoxyribose, and bases are of two types, purines and pyrimidines. Purines are of two types, that is adenine, guanine. Pyrimidines are of three types, that is cytosine, thymine, and uracil. You can easily see from this particular diagram that this is a picture showing nucleotide. You can easily see a nucleotide consists of base, sugar, nitrogenous base. Now you can see there are two rings in this particular nitrogenous base. So you can easily say that this particular nitrogenous base is an purine. Okay, and it consists of a phosphate group. So these are the three things which together make up a nucleotide. So now how nucleotides join to form a polynucleotide? Just few minutes before I have told you that in DNA there are many nucleotides which join together to form polynucleotides. So how these nucleotides are joined to form this polynucleotide? Before knowing that, we should know two terms. One is nucleoside and another is nucleotide. What is the difference between these two? Nucleoside, they consist of nitrogenous base and a sugar. Only sugar and nitrogenous base is known as nucleoside. And nucleotide, they consist of nucleoside plus a phosphate group. When a phosphate group is joined to a nucleoside, it forms nucleotide. Let us see their structures. See a beautiful diagram showing the difference between nucleoside and nucleotide. You can easily see here, in case of nucleoside, there is no phosphate. And when a phosphate groups come and join, it is nucleotide. Now, two bonds are important here. One is glycosidic and another is phosphoester linkage. The bond between nitrogenous base and a sugar means this bond is known as glycosidic linkage. And the bond between phosphate group and nucleoside, this bond is known as phosphoester bond. Please remember the two bonds. One is glycosidic, another is phosphoester bond. You can easily see from this diagram, one is glycosidic bond, another is phosphoester bond. Next is dinucleotide. When two nucleotides are joined together by a bond known as phosphodiester bond. Previously we have seen phosphoester bond, but here phosphodiester bond means two esters are there. Okay, and they will form dinucleotide. Let us see a beautiful diagram. You can easily see this is one nucleotide, this is second nucleotide. Both the nucleotides are joined together. Okay, here they are joined together by a bond known as phosphodiester bond. You can see this bond is known as 3' 5' phosphodiester bond. Why? Because the bond is formed from this diagram. You can easily see the bond is formed between third carbon, okay, the third carbon and fifth carbon atom. Third carbon of first nucleotide and fifth carbon of second nucleotide. Between these two, the bond is formed. So this particular bond is known as phosphodiester bond. So when many these nucleotides are joined together, they form polynucleotide. We can see a polynucleotide. So you can see in this diagram, this is one nucleotide, this is second nucleotide, this is third nucleotide, and this is fourth nucleotide. So many nucleotides are joined together, so it is known as polynucleotide. So here we have learned three types of bonds. One is glycosidic bond, second is phosphoester bond, and third is phosphodiester bond. Now, based on our knowledge, let us study the double helical structure of DNA, which was proposed by two scientists, that is Watson and Crick, who received Nobel Prize also for this particular double helical structure. But Watson and Crick took the readings from many other scientists like your Rosalind Franklin, then Wilkins. Okay, and Rosalind Franklin, she was a lady and she is known as the Dark Lady of DNA because there are certain reasons. Okay, you will be studying in that in higher classes. I'm not going to discuss that now. So what are the silent features of this particular DNA? So first point, it states that it consists of 2 polynucleotide chains. As I have already told you, DNA consists of how many nucleotide chains? 2 polynucleotide chains, where the sugar and phosphate, they form the backbone, and nitrogenous base, they form the inside of the helix. You can easily see from this diagram, it forms a helical structure. Okay, the second point states that complementary base pairing. In case of DNA, the bases are complementary. That is, A always binds with T. G always binds with C. By means of, you can see here, double bond, and here triple bond. These are hydrogen bonds. So A always gets binded with to T and G gets binded to C. Okay. So, let me rub this. Okay. So, the third point states that the 2 polynucleotide chains have anti-parallel polarity. Means if one strand is in 3' to 5' direction, another will be in 5' to 3' direction. Totally opposite. So it is said that they are complementary. Okay, they are anti-parallel. They are, both of them are not parallel, they are anti-parallel. Okay, one is in 5' to 3' direction, another is in 3' to 5' direction. And the bases on the opposite strands are connected by means of hydrogen bonds. These bases, they are connected by hydrogen bonds. Okay. Now, this helix, the radius of the helix is 10 angstroms. So I can say the diameter will be 20 angstroms. Okay. Very simple. If the radius is 10, the diameter will be 20. And the distance per turn is 34 angstrom. Now, what do you mean by per turn? You can easily see, let me write it down. You can easily see, if I consider this as 1 turn, you see my pointer is moving, this is 1 turn. 1 turn, okay. This 1 turn, okay, and the distance between this 1 turn is 34 angstroms, okay. And in this 1 turn, there are 10 base pairs. So you can easily predict how many, what will be the distance between each turn. Okay, let me write it down. So what will be the distance between each turn? That is 34 divided by 10 equals to how much? 3.4 angstrom. So this is the distance between each bases. So these are the some of the important points of the double helical structure of DNA as proposed by Watson and Crick. There were some other points also I will be providing you in the notes. Okay, but these are the important points of the double helical structure of DNA. Now, as I have told you, Watson and Crick took the readings from many other scientists. One of them was Irving Chargaff. Okay, he proposed his rule in the year, I think, 1950. Okay, what is Irving Chargaff's rule, or you can simply say Chargaff's rule? Chargaff's rule states that in a particular DNA, the amount of guanine should be equal to amount of cytosine. Guanine will be equal to cytosine. मतलब जितना guanine होगा उतना आपका cytosine होगा. Similarly, in a particular DNA, the amount of adenine will be equal to amount of thymine. Okay, जितना adenine होगा उतना thymine होगा. So you can see the percentage of guanine will be equal to percentage of cytosine and percentage of adenine will be equal to percentage of thymine. So we can easily see that is A plus T, that is purines. You know now purines. What are the purines? That is A and G. So purines, addition of purine equals to addition of pyrimidine. So purines in a particular DNA, purines are always equal to pyrimidine. Okay, so that's all for today. What we have studied, first we have seen that our DNA is our genetic material and DNA consists of 2 polynucleotide chains, and then we have seen the structure of those polynucleotide chains, that is, it consists of many nucleotides, and then we have seen the structure of each and every nucleotide. Okay, then we have seen the double helical structure of DNA as proposed by Watson and Crick. So that's all for today. Thank you and study well.